Listen up. It's B-Eazy Dat Dude, the great. He ain't fake, he one of the real guys. Spitting fire every stream. You been late to the party, now it's time to realize. From Pittsburgh to around the world, yeah, the flow is elite. Every beat that he slide on turns into straight heat. Came up from the grind, selling box on a laptop, running up a bag, feel like he hit the jackpot. Got the luxury visions, ambition vivid, never bluff. Person's progress, persevere when the going gets tough. B-Eazy Dat Dude, got stripes in the game. Every rhyme, every line, they gon' remember the name. From the streets to the stage, the energy don't fade. Legend in the making, yeah, history's what he's laid. Mic in his hand, heart in the flow and soul on every beat. Dropping knowledge, power, bravado, his legacy complete. Hustle, amplified, lyrics electrified, that's the truth. B-Eazy Dat Dude, established with certified proof. Feel the bass, feel the vibe, let it ride through the crowd. All the words, every hook, man, he keeps making us proud. King of his lane, rising above every feud. All hail the one and only, one and only, one and only. B-Eazy Dat Dude. Yeah. Yeah.
Turn your radios up. Turn your radios up. Y'all know what this is. Y'all know who this is. B-Eazy Dat Dude, an impromptu stream back with another one. This one is gonna be a banger. I won't be here for a long time, but it will be a doozy. I don't like to keep y'all waiting. So before we get this thing started, you know, I gotta hit you.
If you know the song, sing along. Yeah, you're right.
私も地元民と言っても実際は世代です。もう友達できたの？うん。ぶったまんまこっち見ろ。
Look, this promethazine got me leaning like a cholo in the club. I'm 20 deep. I don't be riding solo. Pull some bad bitches, they vanilla and cocoa. They wanna take some photos when we kick it out in Soho. Chicks are showing tits and popping pussy for my promo. Told them like juvenile, baby, move it for me slow-mo. Then I'm right back to the block, cause I keep getting moto. I be flipping, not shrinking. I don't give a fuck about no ho. This nigga name ain't D-Lo, but pimpin' these bitches and stacking this bread forever be my stilo. This is B-Eazy Dat Dude in the trap making pass smooth. If I ever go broke, then I'm about to pull a jack move. Since a nigga healthy, I don't even gotta worry. With my bitch from Fiji eating tandoori and chicken curry, that ism is really in me. My pimp game international. I design my own clothes, so I be always looking fashionable. Here's a couple facts about me that y'all didn't know. Some of y'all be getting bread, but I be getting bigger, dawg. I got bigger guns and a whole lot of better. And we are activated. And we gonna get right into this thing because I won't be here for a long time, but it will be a strong time. But I gotta give a shout out to the illustrious guest. We got none other than Chakra King. We got John Sin Different, aka John Sinatra. We got Roger Meadows. Shout out to Nassau County. But where Brooklyn at? In the building. Let's get right into this thing. Y'all seen the title. Y'all seen the thumbnail, right? Bam, we hitting y'all like this first. We want to talk about these deportations. Remember, the Latino community heavily backed Trump. I will vote for Donald Trump. I will vote for Donald Trump. Okay, well, we're going to react to this video from Ricardo Ignacio. It's titled Trump Voter's Son Killed by ICE. Sheesh, let's get right into it. Y'all can watch this video uninterrupted on Ricardo Ignacio podcast. Let's get into it.
Immigration officers shot and killed Renee Good and Alex Preddy in Minneapolis an ICE agent killed 23-year-old American citizen Ruben Ray Martinez. But ICE's involvement was only recently disclosed. And like in the cases of Good and Preddy, witnesses dispute the official account of what unfolded. In a CBS News exclusive, immigration correspondent Camilo Montoya Galvez sat down with Martinez's mother for her first television interview.
Everything was good.
Mira, esa cara de nopal, voting for Trump. No, la gente está bien jodida.
Just don't understand why it had to be this way.
Rachel, you don't understand why they had to be this way? What other way are they? Oh my God, bro.
Rachel Reyes' son, 23-year-old American citizen Ruben Ray Martinez, was killed by an ICE agent nearly 1 year ago.
I was devastated and in disbelief. And it's bad enough to lose your child, but then to lose your child at the hands of law enforcement when they're supposed to be the ones to protect your child.
ICE's involvement in Martinez's killing in March of 2025 was only...
See, this is what happened, unfortunately, with many Latinos. When Trump told y'all what he was going to do, Trump said y'all are not sending your best. They're bringing crime. He called y'all rapists. He called y'all everything but a child of God. And still, not all, but a significant amount of Latinos went out there and said, I will vote for Donald Trump. Even though he called you a rapist, even though he was calling you all sorts of disgusting and grotesque epithets, you didn't care. Because when he said he thought he was going to get the criminals out there, y'all thought he was talking about foundational Black Americans or something. But hey, newsflash, primo, we are not immigrants. So that's really kind of ruffling some feathers, because people thought, oh yeah, well, since they paint Black people as the face of crime, when Trump says he's going to deport the criminals, yeah, he'll deport a bunch of Blackies, right? No, looks like he's deporting the brownies. Looks like he's deporting what some would call border hoppers, right? These are not my terms. Wetbags, illegal aliens, these are not my terms that I came up with. These are the terms that many in the MAGA moron faction came up with. And guess what? Despite them coming up with all of these disgusting derogatory terms towards Latinos, guess what? Many of them still said, I will vote for Donald Trump. I will vote for Donald Trump. Okay, well, now you're getting what you voted for.
Publicly revealed and...
Nah, I'm gonna rewind that little part. I gotta hear this one more time. 1 second, bear with me.
ICE agent nearly 1 year ago.
I was devastated and in disbelief. And it's bad enough to lose your child, but then to lose your child at the hands of law enforcement when they're supposed to be the ones to protect your child.
No. This goes out to all of you Latinos, Mexican, Chicanos, whatever you want to call yourself. If you look like this, with a cara de nopal, you should know by now, and should have known for a very long time, that when they say, if you look illegal, it means looking like this. There's plenty of illegals that are Asian, African, Europeans, etc., but it doesn't matter. When they say, if you look illegal, it means you look like this, meaning that you are a target.
Reyes says she has deep respect for law enforcement. She also supported President Trump in the 2024 election, but she says change is desperately needed.
I don't blame President Trump for the death of my son because he wasn't the one who pulled the trigger, but I
don't blame Trump either. As a matter of fact, I blame you. You voted for this, idiota.
I do think that something needs to be changed in that department as far as the pattern of violence or abuse and impunity. Based on the statement that they made, seeing how the words that they chose to put out there.
So now she voted for Donald Trump because of what he ran on. And now she's saying, oh, well, that department, it does need some reform because there's too much abuse going on and they're abusing people with impunity. Yeah, that's what law enforcement is and does. Welcome to America. The land of the nanny state and the police state. What did she think was going to happen? That her son was going to get some preferential treatment? Hey, I voted for Donald Trump. Okay, yeah, you voted for him, and he told you what he was going to do. He was going to get anyone that looked like you up out of here. And I don't know why people are confused when Biden, and it's not just Biden, but Biden presided over a record number of illegal border crossings, right? He had the border open and allowed millions and millions of people to just stroll right in the country. Over 80% of the people who came into the country has some Latin Hispanic origin, right? That's just an umbrella term. So you don't know if it was mostly Mexicans. You don't know if it was mostly Venezuelans or Bolivians or Brazilians or Hondurans. It's just all under the umbrella catch-all term Hispanic. Right. So they let close to 80% of the immigrants that crossed the border illegally were Hispanic immigrants. Right. So if they were to do a mass deportation campaign, guess what would be the predominant group that will be getting deported? Right. Because you were the predominant group that were allowed to enter the country illegally. So when they say, hey, we want to clean up this mess, guess who's going to be disproportionately affected? Latinos. But if you look at the numbers, but per capita, ain't that what the bigots like to say? Okay, let's talk about per capita. There were only 6% of African and Caribbean immigrants combined that were allowed to enter in the country under Joe Biden, right? But they're being deported at a 30% higher rate. No one is talking about per capita. All they're saying is Latino, 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 Latino. But there's other people of different racial and ethnic backgrounds being deported. Clearly, the melanated immigrants, African and Caribbean, are being deported at a disproportionately higher rate. Do the Latinos care? No, because they don't even care about other Latinos. They care about their specific ethnic group. If you think I'm lying, tell a Mexican that he's no different than an El Salvadorian. Tell a Puerto Rican that they're no different than someone from the DR. Tell someone that's Venezuelan that they're no different than a Honduran. You're all Latin, right? You're all Hispanic, right? They're all just one big global Hispanic lumped together. Try telling them that. But isn't that what we do in the U.S. with the census and the way we talk about it, as if all Latinos are a monolith and have the same political agenda, right?
About my son, that's as insult to injury.
She's offended because of the way that they described her son. Could I take a wild guess how they described her son without me knowing? They described him as looking illegal, looking like a criminal. He looks like a thug. He looked like he's up to no good. Guess what? If you look like this, or if you look like this, like you, we look like thugs. We look like criminals. We look illegal. Even if we're born in this country, we look like criminals to them. And I get sick and tired when Latinos, Mexicans, Chicanos, whatever, when they go around talking about, well, we didn't know that Trump was going to do these things. He literally told you what he was going to do.
Yeah, so the whole thing, oh, we didn't know. Yeah, he told you what he was going to do. He said you weren't sending your best. So therefore, he's going to get y'all up out of here. And still, many of them said, I will vote for Donald Trump. And now this is what your vote is getting you, is getting people deported, is getting people deleted. People are suffering and depressed, suffering from what some would call the diseases of despair, right? But this is what you voted for. Isn't that what they always tell black people? Yeah, so what? The Democrats screwed you over and stabbed you in the back, but this is what you voted for. Okay, well, we got to hold that, right? But the deportations are starting to hit home. Many Latino / Hispanics are getting their model minority wake up call when they put that offensive moniker of model minority. didn't apply to y'all. Now they will say, yeah, you guys work so much harder than the lazy blacks, right? But then when you start popping out a bunch of babies, when you start going into other positions of power, when you start running for political office, then guess what they say? They start talking about the great replacement. It was okay when you guys, who's gonna pick the fruit? Yeah, it was fine if you were picking fruit and making bed sheets. But now when you're starting to challenge them for political power, now you see where the true mask comes off and the bigotry is highlighted, right? But you should have already known this. Black people have been telling y'all this since the inception of this country. And y'all said, shut up, nigger, get over it. Stop complaining. All right, fine. Well, stop complaining. So when y'all are going through these grievances, I'm going to give the same advice that you told me. Shut up and stop complaining. So I'm going to transition into this video. Shout out to Roger Meadows. I didn't have this on the queue, but I just want to tap in with this. And this video is old from 5 years ago, but it still is relevant today. And this talks about Levittowns, separate but unequal, right? So when people try to say, well, I never owned any slaves and slavery was so long ago, and they try to diminish the anti-blackness to an isolated incident of slavery. But what happened after slavery? Jim Crow came. And then what happened after Jim Crow, right? Just because a law is struck down or eradicated doesn't mean the sentiments of people's heart and minds change. So I'm going to react to this video. It's called Levittown, Separate and Unequal. And then I'll chime in a little bit to give some more history on the Levittowns. Let's get into it. The Levittowns were the quintessential pinnacle of NIMBYism, not in my backyard and redlining. This was one of the practices that helped jump off the no niggas allowed, right? But let's get into it.
White picket fences, clipped hedges, well-maintained lawns. From the outside, it looks like the American dream. But what the community of Levittown was built on doesn't include all Americans.
The builder Levitt had in his deeds something that said this property can only be sold to Caucasian people. Now, we have to remember, those deeds were approved by the federal government.
Dolores and Erwin Quintine experienced this government-approved racist policy firsthand when they went looking for a
So when people say, what, systemic racism doesn't exist, this is a form of systemic racism. And when they say, oh, but that was so long ago, even let's just say it was so long ago. Yeah, but the people still own those houses. So how much is those houses worth now, right? Black people who could afford to live in these areas were denied access simply because the color of their skin. But, systemic racism doesn't exist. It only exists against white people. Show me a town where white people have been barred for buying property. I know people try to lie and say, oh, well, some people encouraged me to not buy a house in a black neighborhood. Yeah, you weren't forced to not buy a house there. You chose to not buy a house there because you were worried about your property values, right? Because you were looking down the line. Okay, this is my starter home and I want to sell it. And I'm not going to get top dollar if it's a bunch of blackies in the neighborhood with me. Hence the sayings, there goes the neighborhood. And that's why they have white flight, etc. This wasn't that long ago, but the high IQs pretend to have amnesia.
A home in Levittown in the 1960s.
The guy said, you know what, you get your out of here because we don't sell the
Established
And she said, they said, get your butt out of here because we don't sell to niggas, right? Or niggers. Look how light this woman is. If they wouldn't sell to her, and shout out to Dolores Quintine. That's definitely a grandma down south number. Dolores, thank you, baby. That's what she sounds like. Shout out to Dolores. If they wouldn't sell to a woman this light, right? Nobody, you know what I mean? She passes the paper bag test, right? And they still wouldn't sell to her. So You know that anyone darker than her wasn't being allowed to sell. This wasn't about the money. This wasn't about qualifications. This isn't about meritocracy. This is about stone cold, hard, anti-black bigotry, which the country was founded on. The sooner we stop pretending that it wasn't, then we can all move forward, right? Get over the past. How can I get over the past when you keep lying about the past, saying that it didn't happen, even though it's been heavily recorded and documented?
Sure. Out of here because we don't sell the.
Established 1947, but how Levittown was established has an effect on American culture today, not just in Levittown, but nationwide. William Levitt built the first mass-produced suburb in the country, and what happened in this 17,000 home development set the standard for thousands of communities coast to coast.
The only way that Levitt could build that subdivision was by going to the Federal Housing Administration and the Veterans Administration, getting a bank guarantee for the loans to buy the land and build the homes.
But the banks blocked out in red on maps.
So they went to the bank, you know, the same bank, the same government that they tell you to stop begging to the government. Why are y'all asking for handouts? Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You mean like Levitt did? Levitt went to the big mommy, daddy, and government and said, give me goodies, giveaways, and guarantees, right? That's not pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. And then they said, fine, we will give you those goodies, giveaways, and guarantees, but only if you discriminate against niggas.
Neighborhoods that had even one black person living there and refused to make loans there. It's why Levittown said no to black buyers at all.
We went to the.
You heard that? Even if there was one black person living in the neighborhood, they would deny loans, right? This is systemic racism. This happened. Clearly, there's people here alive to talk about it. Your parents and some of your parents, some of your grandparents can tell you about this, but why won't they tell you about this? If your parent lived through this and they tell you about that, guess what? That's woke. How is it woke? By them giving their testimonial, their anecdotal experience. What is woke about that? And there's nothing wrong with being woke. Being woke means alert and being aware. Don't you want to be aware of the injustice and atrocities this country committed? Those who don't know their history are doomed to repeat it.
Office where the gentleman was showing the houses. So my husband said to him, my wife and I interested in.
But the banks blocked out in red on maps neighborhoods that had even one black person living there and refused to make loans there. It's why Levittown said no to black buyers at all.
We went to the office where the gentleman was showing the houses. So my husband said to him, my wife and I interested in, purchasing a home here in Levittown. He said, get your out of here.
Richard Rothstein is one of the foremost researchers on housing discrimination in the U.S.
The federal government even required Levitt to place a clause in the deed of every home in Levittown prohibiting resale to African.
And like the late, great Dr. Nellie Fuller says, W supremacy likes to take both sides of the conversation, right? So they have many of these Jewish landlords, or some would call slumlords, who would redline, practice NIMBYism, and discriminate against black people. But then you had some Jewish people who would play good cop, bad cop. Oh my God, it's so bad what they're doing to the poor blacks here. Let us help you, right? And then they use the pain and the plight of us being discriminated against to pass things for minorities, marginalized groups, disenfranchised, underserved groups. So it sounds like it's helping us, but ultimately it's helping everyone but us. Because when you throw out these umbrella terms, we're always at the bottom of it. If you say people of color, we're at the bottom of that. If you say minorities, we're at the bottom of that. Marginalized groups, at the bottom of that. Disenfranchised, bottom of that. Underserved communities, bottom of that, right? Someone could break their leg, and someone could be a straight white dude, bench press 300 pounds, be in great shape, and then break his leg. And now he's disabled. And guess what? Disabled people are minorities. So he's going to leapfrog you in terms of the social stratification system. It's an ugly reality.
Americans or rental to African Americans. Those deeds are still in the homes today. They can't be removed.
They're no longer enforceable, but there it is, not to permit the premises to be used or occupied by any person other than members of the Caucasian race. Louise Casano has lived in Levittown.
And then there were some Jewish people. Hey, they discriminated against us too. Yeah, which is why many of you guys just changed your last name and assimilated and adopted your white identity. So don't try to act like the discrimination was the same. They hated Jews. Who was they? You mean other white people? Other white people hated a different ethnicity and whiteness. Okay, wow, right? When the Italians came over, they weren't considered white. They hated them. They called them guineas, which were calling them Africans, which were calling them niggas. They called the Irish people niggas, right? These people were adopted, buck broken, hazed, and assimilated into whiteness, right? So the whole, well, they discriminated against Jews. Okay, they discriminated against you, and then you changed your last name, and then there was no more discrimination. They discriminated against you, and you said, you know what? I'ma just change my name. Instead of my name being Rothstein, my name is gonna be Roberts. You know what I mean? So yeah, when you were black, you couldn't just change your name. Hey, my name is Jamal, and I'm gonna change my name to Jonathan. You know, my name is Bakari, and I'm gonna change my name to Benjamin. We couldn't just do that. So to pretend that the discrimination was the same, it's not. And they always talk about reverse racism. Jews were allegedly discriminated against, and their answer to discrimination is to discriminate against the people who didn't attack you, the people who stood by you and wanted to protect you and help you receive your full human rights in this country, right? One of the main purveyors and promulgators of blackface was a Lithuanian Jew named Al Jolson, a Lithuanian immigrant. He was failing in his homeland. His homeland was a shithole, like Trump likes to call these places. So he fled a shithole European nation to come over here to get celebrated and commemorated for mocking black people. And guess who it was? All the people. I never owned slaves. Yeah, you never owned slaves. You just went to go watch black people get lynched. You never owned slaves, but you just watch a bunch of non-black people dress up in blackface and do all sorts of minstrel shows, right? But I never owned any slaves. And that's one of the most pathetic sayings too, because the people that say that, they didn't have the means to own slaves. If they had the means, they would have owned slaves. And when you tell them that, they admit it, and then they say, well, slavery was everywhere. So you're admitting that if you had the means, you would have owned slaves. So why are you even saying, I never owned a slave? It's like someone saying, I never drove a Lamborghini. Hey, here, I got a Lamborghini. You want the keys to the car? Guess what they'll do? Take those keys and drive a Lamborghini. I never owned a slave. Hey, I got an extra slave. You want one? Guess what you think they would do? They would take a slave. So why are you pretending that, well, I never owned one? Yeah, you never owned one because you couldn't, but you condoned the practice.
Since her parents brought her here in 1951, and she and her husband bought their home here 13 years later.
I don't doubt that a number of people bought into the community for the reason that it was Caucasian only. I have never heard of any incidents in this community where people of color have been abused in any way.
But there may be a reason for that. Even today, just over 1% of Levittown residents are black, just under 84% are white.
That's the problem with discrimination and racism. It carries forward.
When Levitt built his homes, there was no down payment for veterans, and for anyone else, it was $10. That's just $120 today, adjusted for inflation. And the homes cost about $8,000, the equivalent of $96,000 of today's dollars.
Either one of those prices people would be good with. People would be okay, inflation. I'll buy a house today for $96,000. But you know none of these houses are going for $96,000. So the same people who bought their houses for $8,000, $13,000, these are the same people wagging their fingers at you. You need to pull yourself up by your bootstrap. I walked 20 miles in the snow with a 40-pound backpack, right? Why can't you do what I did? Okay, I could do what you did. $8,000. Some people get an $8,000 tax return. So you can get a tax return and buy a house in the 1940s. And these same people are wagging your fingers. We need more white babies. How you gonna have white babies when the average home costs over $450,000? This is just the average home cost. Could you find some cheaper? Yeah, but is it a place where you want to live and raise your kids? That's a whole separate discussion, right? So I don't want to hear these silent generations and these boomers who many of them have bought their house for less than 100K, and they're sitting on their house to hopefully sell it for 2 or 3 million. You bought your house for less than 100K and you think some young upstart adult is going to buy the house that was built in the 1940s for damn near $1 million? Man, a lot of the silent generations and these boomers, they've sold the country out. It's not just the buck broken black boule. It's many of the people in the dominant society. But who do they blame? George Floyd and BLM. Is this the reason why you can't afford a home? Because BLM? And speaking of BLM, it's a bunch of non-black money funding that. But who do you blame for it? The people who you say are powerless and don't have any resources, right? The people who do have the resources are the one pushing this forward, but they don't get any blame for that. Let's get back into it.
Places black families could afford. But now, the value of a Levittown home?
$500,000 perhaps. The white families gained equity.
Housing advocate Ian Wilder says that created a huge divide of wealth,
which could be used to put children through school, which means through college, which means those children have a shot at a better paying job. The families that couldn't buy here lost $400,000 worth of equity.
That segregation, enforced by the government and kept in place to this day, means that most whites have lived separately from blacks for generations. Now, there were a few.
So like they said, it was put in place by the government. That's systemic, or some would call systematic as well, right? And it's still going on today. Why are y'all talking about the past? You mean the past that's affecting today? The past that's still affecting the present?
Few exceptions in the years after World War II. Well, sort of. Madeline Quintine shows us the clippings about her dad, a community leader. He was the man run out of Levittown nearly 60 years ago.
My father was about home ownership.
Erwin Quintine was finally able to buy a home here.
And many places are more segregated now than in Jim Crow. And guess what? People still, I got black fatigue. How the fuck do you got black fatigue? You don't even live by black people. They've been redlined out of your neighborhood. You have NIMBYism, not in my backyard, so there's no black people around. And then still, you got people that live in a lily white neighborhood that's 90+% white. And they still be saying, what about Chicago? Bro, you're from Wyoming. What about Oakland? You're from Utah, right? What about St. Louis? You're from Rhode Island.
In Roanoke Park, the North Amityville subdivision, 4 miles from Levittown, advertised that all men are created equal.
It's basically where African Americans live.
And while they did build up equity, it was separate and unequal. North Amityville is now 92% Black or Latino and has a median income of about $73,500. That's 62 cents for each dollar Levittowners earn. So the housing discrimination that started 70 years ago in Levittown and spread nationwide created the wealth gap for African American families today.
Only in America. That's all I can tell you. Only in America would this happen, I guess.
James, what are some other ways this historical segregation has played out?
Well, Tamsin, it plays out in even more ways involving housing. Get this, a pair of detailed studies recently showed that nationwide, Black-owned homes are charged much higher property taxes than those owned by whites. But Black-owned homes are typically valued a lot.
Systemic racism. Why are y'all talking about the past? No, this is happening today. So we're not supposed to talk about the present. We're not supposed to talk about how the past has shaped the present.
Lower than white-owned homes, sometimes when they're right next door to each other. The deeds in Levittown homes have a clause not to permit.
Where are the MAGA morons and the liberal lunatics? Reverse racism. Nah, it's just good old-fashioned anti-Black racism. No reverse. No reverse.
Detailed studies recently showed that nationwide, Black-owned homes are charged much higher property taxes than those owned by whites. But Black-owned homes are typically valued a lot lower than white-owned homes, sometimes when they're right next door to each other. The deeds in Levittown homes have a clause not to permit any person other than members of the Caucasian race.
We have to remember, those deeds were approved by the federal government.
Thousands of communities of color nationwide were put into the zones you see in red. It's called redlining, a practice by the federal government, which in effect prohibited banks from investing in Black neighborhoods or with Black people. The result is that most white Americans have lived separately from Blacks for generations.
And you hear they keep saying Black, 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 and then they try to pivot and say communities of color. What other communities of color? Those Latinos that came over here, they were always considered white. And yeah, they were discriminated against, but it was nowhere near the level that they were discriminated against Blacks. They were hazing them into whiteness, which is why Mexicans in specific fought to be legally recognized as white. All of these other groups, yeah, they were saying, no, don't call us people of color because colored is associated with Blackness. And we're the model minority Asians. So we want to live next to y'all. And the whites was like, nah, we don't want y'all next to us. So what the Asians did was many of them came over here, were educated, had degrees or whatever. They were given loans to set up businesses in the Black neighborhood. But it was just an extraction process. They didn't want to live there, right? And then the same thing with the Latinos. Oh my God, we love you. You work so hard, but we don't want to live next to y'all, right? We don't want to live next to the wetbacks, so we're going to put them next to the niggers, right? And then many of the Latinos, they believe blancamiento, mejoró la raza, lightening, whitening, and brightening the race. So they do whatever they can to get closer to white proximity. So there you have it, right? So this whole communities of color were discriminated against. Yes, some of them were discriminated against, but they were only discriminated against because they were being hazed and assimilated into whiteness. And after they got discriminated against, people weren't being discriminated against by Black people. We were like, come one, come all. We were all inclusive, unfortunately. And then once we included and said, all right, fine, if they want to dump a bunch of undocumented immigrants over here, who cares, man? An injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere. So we invited and accepted people into our neighborhood. Then we got displaced out of our own neighborhoods. And the same people who said we were fleeing U.S. imperialism. Okay, that wasn't a bunch of Black people destabilizing your country. They'll say they were fleeing gang violence. The gang violence was people that looked like you. It was your brothers and cousins that you were fighting that looked like you, the same racial, same ethnic group. And then they come over here and blame a group that had nothing to do with the destabilizing of their country, that had nothing to do with the gang violence. The cartels, is it a bunch of Black people in the cartels? The Mexican cartel, the Colombian cartel, there's not a bunch of Black people. It's people that look like the people who say they're seeking asylum. They come over here with anti-Black views, but you don't have anti-Latino views when it was Latinos that forced you to flee. It's not Black people in Mexico chopping off the heads of mayors and stuff. It's not Black people flooding your neighborhoods with drugs, trafficking young girls. bringing a bunch of fentanyl across the border, that's not black people. But guess who gets the blame for it? You know what I mean? So I'm going to play a little bit more of this video and then I'm going to transition because I do kind of got a hard stop. I got to get up out of here.
A fact emphasized by protesters today looking to change the landscape. They've even marched in Levittown.
We have to acknowledge the painful things that happened in our past and look towards a better future.
The place that once only let white people purchase homes.
We need major actions to break those chains.
I call it remedies.
Those remedies should be significant financial compensation to blacks nationwide.
Find the name of the bank that guaranteed those loans. That bank.
Financial compensation, i.e. reparation. Well, why should I have to pay, right? But people only say that about us. No one says, why should I have to pay for the Stop Asian Hate campaign? Why should I have to pay for illegal immigrants? Why should I have to pay for the Jews who didn't suffer a Holocaust here? People don't really say that. It's just only for the group that you can see a litany of documentation that this group was aggrieved. It's like, shut up. Them niggas shouldn't get nothing. But Guamanians should get reparations from the U.S. Armenians, right? We talk more about the Armenian genocide than the genocide of foundational Black Americans in this country, right?
Owes reparations. That bank should be setting up a fund to subsidize African Americans.
I do agree with the reparations. And if it comes to pass, I don't know. But if it does come to pass, it should have been a long time ago.
And could be a...
I concur. It should have been a long time ago. Well, it did come to pass. That's where the whole 40 acres and a mule comes. So even the biggest at the time said, yeah, we don't like these niggas, but we do have to give these niggas something for all of the barbarism and the heinous atrocities we committed towards them, right? And then there was an even bigger bigot came and reversed it and said, you niggas don't deserve nothing, etc., etc. Well, like SWP says, well, you have the black people that this nation deserves, right? This nation knows what it takes to have a enriched community. But if you actively work to disenfranchise a community, what are you expecting to come from that community? They destabilize a country or a city, and then they want, these beautiful, flowery, positive outcomes to come. It's almost like you chain up a junkyard dog. The dog is malnourished. You abuse the dog, but somehow you want the dog to act like Beethoven or Lassie or Air Bud. Huh? How the fuck are you going to get a Lassie dog that you chained up and don't want to feed or nourish or walk and treat, like a family pet? You train or you leave a junkyard dog, it's not going to act like a Lassie domestic pet. So let's get into this last video because I do got to get out of here. I'm going to try to rush through this one, but this one can be viewed uninterrupted on the African Diaspora News Channel. This is titled, Al Sharpton Makes Wild Claims About Kamala and Obama's lineage while slamming Black Americans. So this is the thing that both parties, namely the Democrats, like to do. They like to shame Black voters. We're the backbone of the party, but they like to shame you to the vote. Now, they've already moved on, but they want to try to get the last few votes that they can out of Black people before they officially displace them, right? They've unofficially replaced and displaced them, but they want us to put the final proverbial nail in the coffin for voting blue no matter who with no interest, right? And rather than blame the politicians for not delivering on tangibles, it's going to be, hey, well, you niggas didn't vote hard enough. Okay, fine. I'm willing to vote hard. I'm willing to galvanize the people. But what am I getting? Well, Trump is bad. If you vote, you get Trump out of office. So basically nothing, right? They're framing that getting Trump out of office, well, that's the tangible because things could just get so much worse. Well, just let them get worse. Because if we can't all be equally comfortable, then we'll all be equally uncomfortable.
Recently, at one of Reverend Jesse Jackson's homegoing service, he had quite a few of them. There were many dignitaries that got a chance to speak. You had President Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, Vice President Kamala Harris. Joe Biden, and then of course you had Reverend Al Sharpton. He spoke. Now, as usual, Reverend Al Sharpton, he's gonna tear the house down, right? Because he's good at what he does. Now, I took exception to a portion of his speech. Check it out.
The next day, he took me on the ferry to Goree Island, Mrs. Jackson. And on Goree Island, he showed me where the slave camps were. And I will never forget, he said, Al, you see what that artifact is? I said, what's that? He said, they call it the door of no return. When you go through that door, you either made it to America to slavery or you died in the Atlantic. The door of no return. But I talked to him about 3 years ago, and I reminded him, I said, remember when you brought me to the door of no return? He said, yeah. I said, well, we did return. We returned the President of the United States, Barack Obama. We returned the Vice President, Kamala Harris. We returned with businessmen. They thought they sent us as slaves. We came back as global liberators. The problem is that too many of us did not join the movements that sponsored us. And there was a breakout in 2024 called Negro Amnesia, where you forgot where you came from and forgot how you got where you got.
Man, see, if you look in the back, it's just a bunch of old people. You know what I mean? I gotta hit him. Al Sharpton, Al Sharpcoon.
Who is we? Who is we?
He's over here talking about, and we this and we that, and then we got Obama. Like, Obama doesn't have the same lineage or history as me. Kamala doesn't have the same lineage or history as me. Kamala's dad is an Indo-Irish Jamaican dude who has roots towards, some say, slave owners, allegedly, right? So who is the we that he's referring to? And this nigga's over here tap dancing to shuck and jive to get us to vote Democrat.
What? How please? Nigga, please. How?
Nigga, what?
Nigga. Nigga, please. Nigga, please. What?
So he's over here talking about, we forget where we came from. Nigga, I didn't come from Africa, right? You forget, man, about the slaves. Nigga, not all of us is slaves. Not all of us came from a slave ship. Many of us have enslaved ancestry, right? But that doesn't mean that they came from Africa. Being a foundational Black American, having an ethnogenesis, is being an amalgamation of indigenous, some African, and some European ancestry. That is what constitutes and creates a foundational Black American. And shout out to the TBA. He always says you gotta watch out for these old niggas. And Al Sharpton is the raccoon lord. Y'all forget where y'all came from. Nigga, I ain't from Africa.
There's a breakout in 2024 called Negro Amnesia, where you forgot where you came from and forgot how you got where you got. Therefore, they're trying to take back everything you have. I asked Michael Eric Dyson, our prominent scholar, where in history is this? He said, we always go one step forward and two back. Well, here we are now. The problem is not Trump. The problem is us.
How idiotic and pathetic do you have to be? This goofy old nigga saying the problem ain't Trump, the problem is us. Yeah, you go, King. Yeah. Like, what the fuck are y'all cheering for? And this is why you got a bunch of old, buck broken, buttermilk biscuit loving boule bozos. That's all these old niggas and niggettes are. Y'all can't blame Trump. It's our fault. Okay, so why are you going around with this Trump derangement syndrome? Trump bad, Trump bad, Trump bad. Okay, stop blaming Trump if it's us. Just say black people bad, niggas bad, because isn't that what you're saying? We can't blame Trump, it's us. Nigga, huh? Weren't y'all just saying that it was 92% of black women, of those who cast a vote, because half the country doesn't vote, right? So 92% of black women did vote for Kamala. Kamami Harris, right? And then he's still saying it ain't Trump's fault, it's y'all fault. So what? You wanted the turnout to be 99% to vote for Kamami, the same one who said, I'm not going to do something that only benefits black people, but they do stuff that only benefits Asians, that only benefits non-citizens, that only benefits Jewish people. And here you got Al Sharpcoon up here saying, it ain't Trump's fault, it's y'all fault. Huh? Nigga, I thought you wanted us to vote. And now he's saying, yeah, it's y'all fault that y'all didn't vote hard enough. We're not offering any tangibles for you niggas, but it's y'all fault for not voting for us, right? Vote for no tangibles, right? Nigga, sit your old, crusty, dusty ass down, Al Sharpton.
I asked Michael Eric Dyson, our prominent scholar, where in history is this? He said, we always go one step forward and two backward. Well, here we are now. The problem is not Trump. The problem is us. We are allowing ourselves to be lowered. And
yeah, to a certain extent, he is right, but not particularly in this context, because he's saying the problem is us and that we need to vote harder for the Democrats. That's not the same thing. Now, I will say the problem is us is that we are giving our vote to the Democrats or either one of these political parties without getting tangibles extracted and promised at the forefront, right? It is our fault that we are not practicing more mutual aid and abstaining from these institutions and these cultural norms and practices. That part is our fault, but he's trying to blame that it's our fault because Kamala is not president because we didn't vote hard enough and we didn't crash out hard enough, right? This is just a stump speech to say, hey, because we've already voted, right? We've already voted for Obama at record numbers. They voted for Kamala, right? So all he's talking about is future votes. And he's saying it's our problem. I mean, it's our fault if we don't vote. Okay. I just want to say, I was like, damn, I was like Roger Meadows or Roger Sharpton. I was like, nigga, don't tell me you one of them old niggas I gotta watch out for. I do got a hard stop, so I'm gonna try to play a little bit more. But if y'all feeling the video, like, comment, subscribe, and I will hit y'all with a double header later just because I'm kind of in a rush today. Like I told you, I won't be here for a long time, but a strong time.
backward. Well, here we are now. The problem is not Trump. The problem is us. We are allowing ourselves to be lowered and our children to feel inferior because you don't have an I am somebody person. You got our artists calling our women bees. Our others calling us. What happened to us? What happened to black and proud? What happened? I'm gonna vote. What happened? Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. What happened to us?
So as you heard him say,
What happened to us is we've been led by goofy, musty, moist niggas like you, Al Sharpton. You gotta watch out for these old niggas. They definitely don't have your best interests at heart, right? He's talking about what happened to be black and proud, nigga. We are. We were the ones saying, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. But it's people like you who keep trying to say it loud, you're African and you don't know where you came from. I know I didn't come from Africa, right?
actually was referencing a time where he and Jesse Jr. Was sitting with Reverend Jesse Jackson. I guess they were at Gory Island or somewhere near it, and they caught a ferry to the door of no return there in Senegal. And so he basically was saying how, but the door of no return, which was where slaves were sent off into slavery and never to return, right? But of course, he says, well, yes, it did return something. It returned Barack Obama and Kamala Harris. And it's like, I don't even really know how to take that. But he basically said we didn't do our part in a sense. And I guess he's saying we don't vote anymore and a whole host of other things that our ancestors did. There is no I am somebody to look up to. And then he basically said, what happened to us? Well, the I am somebody is you. If you look in the mirror, Reverend Al Sharpton, I listen to you, and I'm in a car on Sundays, and you always talk about the man in the mirror. Do you not? You do. And you play Michael Jackson's song and all that. Talking about you are the one you're waiting on, in a sense. That's what you're saying. So can I be my own? I am somebody, right? But if we really need somebody, we could think about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, right? He's the I am somebody to me. But at the very least, we should be that to ourselves. Okay, let's talk about Barack and Kamala. You said the door returned them. No, it didn't. Because Barack and Kamala, they wasn't part of slavery. In fact, it sounds like their ancestors were slave owners. So they didn't come from the door. Okay. The people that came from the door would have been sold to their relatives. I'm just trying to, make it as accurate as possible. Okay, but let's just go along with your talking points. What did Barack and Kamala return for Black folks? What did they return for us? We returned Barack Obama to the White.
So here we got Al Sharpton saying, what happened to us, right? Y'all forgot who y'all are. Nigga, we got Obama elected twice, and we overwhelmingly voted for Kamala. No, y'all need to vote harder and shit. But what did any of them do? Kamami said she ain't gonna do nothing that only benefits Black people, but she co-signed things that only benefited Asians, Jews, and non-citizens. Barack Obama, I'm not the president of Black America. I'm the president of all America. So who gives a fuck if this nigga is a biracial Kenyan American? I don't care, right? He doesn't care about Black people. So why the fuck should I care about old Tether Obama?
White House twice. And guess what he returned for us? Nothing. He didn't return anything specifically for Black Americans. And he know what we wanted. We wanted reparations. We wanted 40 acres and a mule. We wanted a hate crime bill. We wanted all of that. But he gave that, in a sense, to everybody but Black Americans. So you want us to feel something for them? And Kamala, y'all know what she said. Here it goes. Now, right? She wasn't going to do anything specifically for Black folks. So you want to guilt us? For what? And you say not to blame Trump. I get it. We shouldn't blame Trump. There's a lot of things in our community that we are responsible for and we need to get a hold of. Yes, it is. But see, that's the talking points y'all went with, especially Kamala, when she was running Trump. I mean, y'all had everybody thinking we was going to be back on the plantation. That's what y'all was having everybody think. I didn't think that. But in a sense, a lot of people, oh gosh, we don't vote for Kamala. We gonna be slaves again. And it's like, hey, I ain't seen nothing like that happen yet. Okay. And even to this, up until the last couple of weeks, I asked somebody the other day, what happened to all the ICE raids? But even still, y'all was running around talking about, down with ICE, abolish ICE and all this other stuff. But yet you talking about what came out of the door of no return, didn't know immigrants from Mexico or in the motherland, or what they did come from the motherland. But I'm just saying that they didn't come from that door of no return, but y'all run around fighting for them.
Exactly. And we got to stop allowing what our ancestors went through to be hijacked by everyone, right? So it was Black people getting dog sicked on them. It was Black people getting lynched. And then they try to say people of color were lynched. No, it wasn't no fucking people of color being lynched. It was foundational Black American freedmen being lynched. There was Juan Crow. What fucking Juan Crow? Mexicans were legally fighting to be classified as white. There's no race called Mexican. Even right now with Puerto Ricans on the island of Puerto Rico, guess what the majority of them identify as? If it's not white, then they say, hey, I'm not just white, I'm biracial, triracial, right? Only 12% on the island of Puerto Rico identify as being Black. The majority of them identify as being white, but they say, hey, I'm not white, I'm Latino. That's not no race, and neither is Hispanic. So really, all of these people, they talk about W supremacy, but you're crashing out for many white Latinos to uphold the same system that you allegedly are vehemently against. Now, I do got a hard stop, so I'm about to get up out of here. I'm gonna hit y'all with a couple quick visuals, not the whole rundown, and then I will shut her down. And Roger says, never forget Al, Mr. Black and Proud, worked with the feds wearing a wire to get someone who knew where Tupac's aunt, Assata Shakur, who the Black Panthers broke out of prisons, was hiding out before it was discovered years in Cuba. So if I was an informant, many of y'all wouldn't subscribe to this channel. Many of y'all don't want to hear what I have to say. If you on the block with a rat, a snitch, an informant, many of y'all don't want to hear what they have to say. There's old saying that snitches get stitches, right? We're not living in those times anymore, clearly, right? But Al Sharpton is a coon tap dancing sellout who was an informant, right? So the fact that he's got a past this long based on, well, he was around during civil rights. Yeah, he was around during civil rights. He may have said and did some good things at one point in his life, but at some point he got the call. He pulled his pants down. He bent over and got buck broken with no lube voluntarily. This is not something to look up to. This is not something to aspire to, right? To say, hey, little Jamal and little Daquan, don't you want to be just like Al Sharpton or Bakari Sellout or Van Jones, a buck broken bozo for the establishment? Nah, I'm cool. I'll pass. But shout out to Big Rick Slaps. You came in. I'm actually about to head out because I do got some business to tend to. But y'all could have been anywhere in the world. You chose to be here with me, at least momentarily. And for that, I thank you. Now, it won't cost you a fee. The likes are free. Do have a goal to try to reach 1,000 subs. I'm like 200-ish away. So if you hate this content, subscribe because I'll give you a lot more content to hate on. And if you love this content, support. You know, if you can't support financially or you're unwilling to support financially, then you can support freely by liking the stream. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Word of mouth is still an effective marketing tool. So I'm gonna play a couple visuals and then I'm out of here. Salute, and I love y'all. Yeah. Hey. B-Eazy Dat Dude, shit so hot it's burning up. Just go ahead and turn this up. I bring the pain like an aftermath of a car wreck. It's a lot of niggas that say they real. To me, that shit is far-fetched. Them cats is pussy. They really is on some feminine stuff. I ride up on them with the 40 ounces. It's a definition of adrenaline rush. What it do is sweet like cinnamon puffer. My niggas is rough like Willow Pass. Grew about on Mary Mac, but I used to hang on Willow Pass. These birds that I roll with, outcasts and misfits. For the zip lips so you get hit when the fifth spit. Flat line in your pit. Trap habits is black magic, no voodoo. Get the bands like Buku for the cocaine and go poo-poo. Most these niggas is foo-foo, so I'm shitting on them like doo-doo. I can't fuck with y'all like tofu. I'm just saying, man, like Goku. Bad bitches at the house with me watching Netflix on Roku. Fuck them both at the same time, and I swear to God it was so cool. Street legend, real boss, I call shots cause I'm still salty. I know some G's to the bike crack on Chirac and then fly back out to Milwaukee. When they hear me flow, they say I be burning up, burning up. Cookies to the draw is what we burning up, burning up. What you ain't know, oh, we burning up, burning up. This shit so hot, it's burning up. Just go ahead and turn this up. When you hear me flow, say I be burning up, burning up. Cookies to the draw is what we burning up, burning up. What you ain't know, oh, we burning up, burning up. This shit so hot, it's burning up. Just go ahead and turn this up. Hey, and I was trying to get out of here, but shout out to Focus 6016. I had to make you a mod. Focus coming in hot with the hun done. Yikes. This is the most I've ever received on a super chat or a super sticker. So Focus, I had to mod you up from that. I haven't even really been seeing you over here, Focus. So Focus came in hot with the hun done. Salute to Focus, man. I appreciate that, man. I'm so happy that you came. That, man, this is a tearjerker. Hold on. Shout out to Focus. Those were tears of joy. Let me hit you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So salute to the illustrious guest, Focus 6016, coming in hot with the $100 super chat. I appreciate you. But yeah, I put you in the true blue, man. You've earned it. And I'm getting up out of here, but I do gotta give a shout out to the illustrious guest, Sincere Saida, in building. And Sincere, you came right at the back end, so I'm shutting it down. But yeah, I may come back and hit y'all with a double header later. So I'm just ecstatic that Focus came through. I wasn't even expecting it. Like I said, if you're unable or unwilling to support, you can hit your boy what they like. That is free. All right.
You ain't know. That just be easy. Hey, hey. That just be easy. That dude. Be easy. Is that dude? You hear me? You feel me? Ooh. B-Eazy Dat Dude, yeah. B-Eazy.
If you feel the vibe, like, share, and subscribe. We growing on this journey. Come and take a ride. If you wanna slide with that dude, be easy. We going all the way to the top, believe me. All the way to the top, believe me.
Be easy, be easy. He is that dude. Ooh, he is that dude. That dude, be easy. He is the one that you can call so he can get the job done. He about to reign supreme if you thought his run would soon end. He just getting started though, so go ahead and tune in. Be easy.